Soren. Alvin's townhouse was filled with the aroma of freshly baked pizza. It was their usual monthly gathering. Everyone at ease in the comfort of routine. Friends sprawled across couches and chairs, and the low hum of conversation spreading through the room. Benison Inglewood and Florence Artois, Art, shared an armchair. Art had claimed the cushions, while Benison half perched on the arm of the fabric chair, his legs and body angled toward the television. The evening's political spin flickered across the screen, the sound turned down so low it blended with the background noise. His eyes were focused on the closed captions, but his ears were tuned to the circle of friends. Art relaxed beneath Benison's elbow, beer in hand. On the couch, Bianca Stearns leaned forward toward the coffee table to claim another slice of vegetarian pizza, careful not to jostle Gino Zhu, who reclined with his head pillowed in her lap. Gino was dressed like he'd stepped off a runway. Designer sweater, perfectly pressed trousers, nails gleaming with a clear coat. He'd swanned in, complaining about his day, but the others took his issues lightly. It was no secret Gino's version of a problem wasn't the same as normal people's. He didn't work. Rather, his lifestyle was funded by a rotating cast of wealthy older women who treated him as their boy toy. In the kitchen, Alvin poured white rum into a tall glass, the beginnings of a cocktail for Soren, who had just arrived, a fine mist of rain clinging to his jacket. He shrugged off his faux suede jacket and draped it over the back of a chair, layering it on top of Gino's sleek black trench coat. It must have just started raining, Sabine remarked, watching him from her perch on a stool next to the counter. Yeah. As Soren passed through the living room, Gino stretched out a hand without lifting his head, and they exchanged a lazy fist bump. Sorry I'm late, Soren said. Don't worry about it, Art replied from the chair beneath Benison's elbow. We know you were on call. Drink in hand, Soren took the empty stool next to Sabine. The buzz of conversation dipped as Stefania cleared her throat from the armchair next to the window. Ahem. So as I was saying, she began, her voice edged with frustration, someone in upper management misplaced an important file today, and somehow the blame landed on my department again. She shook her head. It's not like all we do is make copies and answer phones. They treat us like we're all worthless. Yeah, that sucks, Benison replied absently, still watching the ticker crawl across the television screen. Stefania crossed her arms, convinced he hadn't been paying attention, until he surprised her with, How did your interview at the ad agency go? Her expression softened. The tone of her voice brightened. They called me back for a second round, she said, grinning. So I've got my fingers crossed. Benison's head nodded in response, yet his gaze stayed focused on the screen, eyes shifting left and right with the subtitles. At the counter, Sabine nudged Alvin. You were saying something about your client earlier. Alvin sighed, splashing another measure of whiskey into his old-fashioned before taking a long swallow. He wants me to work miracles when he can't keep his mouth shut. Doesn't matter how many times I tell him to stay off social media. He ignores me. Then when the other side waves his own posts in our faces in court, somehow it's my fault. Let him rot in prison if he's that determined, Bianca muttered. Gino sat up sharply, eyes flashing. Isn't that exactly what you said to me before I got sealed? I did, she said flatly, and I stand by it. You're lucky the leaders thought a few decades in the blind were enough to straighten you out. I didn't commit any actual crimes, Gino snapped. What's the point of having power if I'm just supposed to live like everyone else? I don't want to live like everyone else. Have you ever tried? Sabine asked, calm but pointed. As if he could, Benison said dryly, thumb tapping the remote to raise the TV volume a notch. Gino's a slave to materialism. And what's wrong with that? Gino shot back, leaning into his previous position. Bianca shoved his head out of her lap, and he flailed before catching himself on the edge of the coffee table, barely saving the pizza boxes from toppling. He sat up cross-legged on the floor, glaring. How I live my life is a personal choice. That's exactly why you got sealed in the first place, Bianca said coolly. The point of punishment is self-reflection. Gino spread his hands, a smirk tugging at his lips. Yeah, well, I reflected on myself, and I decided I deserve a life of luxury. Yeah, Art asked. How's that working out for you? Gino shrugged. Soren sipped his drink and let the debate about Gino's wild lifestyle bounce back and forth without adding his voice. Tonight, his mind was elsewhere.
Gino spread his hands, a smirk tugging at his lips. Yeah, well, I reflected on myself, and I decided I deserve a life of luxury. Yeah? Arte asked. How's that working out for you? Gino shrugged. Soren sipped his drink and let the debate about Gino's wild lifestyle bounce back and forth without adding his voice. Tonight, his mind was elsewhere.